off we go. Thank you so much for being here. I'm super excited that I managed to help get this together for July. I was in San Antonio last weekend, and it's been more challenging this month than I thought it would be. But we have some wonderful poets who have agreed to read, two of whom have yet to arrive. So that's cool. They'll be here when they be here. And we have a wonderful featured poet, Richard Loranger, who has been a regular attendee and sometime sharing poet here with the Dando Poetry community that we've co-created starting last November 2020. I'll just get a few things addressed quickly, and then we can do some reading. The series is virtual, and many people are now doing things on site in person. So I already had a meeting this past Tuesday with a couple of, well, 3 people who are regular attendees. We met in person at a Tex-Mex restaurant, Taqueria, to talk about the possibility of this series continuing as a hybrid, so that it would be in person, on site at a location in Fort Worth, Texas, USA, the ancestral lands of the Comanche, Waco, Wichita, and affiliated tribes people, many of whom, are here today as ancestors of the original indigenous folks who lived on this land. So there is a local venue, and the board, 2 of the board members have approached me as of last year. They've been asking if I might consider hosting an in-person literary event or help with literary programming. So we're in talks about maybe the Dando Poetry series happening, maybe not every month, but maybe quarterly at the in-person venue, but always keeping this virtual component so that folks like Alice in San Antonio, aka Yanaguana Tehaslan, can participate, so that Richard can be with us from Oakland, and etc. Many of us love the idea of folks from other geographical regions joining together in this virtual space. I love it. It's important to me to continue to offer this, particularly for folks who are mobility impaired. I don't own a car. I don't move as fast, even when I am moving on bike or walking. And I certainly can't jet set to places like Oakland and San Antonio with the dimes I have and, the time I don't have. So I love continuing this as a virtual event, and maybe occasionally or, quarterly in person. If you have any feedback or comments, feel free to email me or Facebook me about that. We can have that conversation, so I can get your ideas. We won't take time to have that discussion here during this reading. If anyone knows Enrique Cabrera or Atenea Afrodita, and want to reach out to them by text and tell them we're in the space, I'm ready to admit them into the Zoom room if they can make it. Welcome to all. As I said, we're recording. As I said, every one of these programs goes up on YouTube in a matter of days or a matter of weeks, depending on how busy I am. This is a labor of love. I have not been paid anything to do this. I think it's important to have documentation of readings, because for future funding potential, it's nice to have documentation of the events that you did in the past. Also, for folks who are reading, sometimes it's nice to be able to direct grant funders and institutions to readings that you've done, so that they could see your activity and how prolific you are in literary community. So that's a gift for you to have that access to the document of the video. I've done way too much talking, and I would love to turn the mic over to our first poet, and we'll have Richard on later in the hour. But first, I want to introduce Reverie Kaneki, who is coming to us from Grand Prairie. And I'm super excited because I first heard Reverie in person last month at a memorial reading for a poet who passed away. Misty Amber Moore passed away in April, and we had a memorial reading in June in Dallas, Texas. And I want to hear more of Reverie's work. And I also know, and I'm excited to hear, Reverie, you have a book coming out on Finishing Line Press. And I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, yes.
So,
Thank you.
welcome.
Should I read first or should I talk about?
How about a poem and then talk and then more poem?
Okay. All right. All right. This first one is called The Blackest Summer. Hashtags, everyone dying for some reason or another, until a virus becomes as benign as eating Brussels sprouts and ham for dinner. We cocooned into roadkill, slumbering in breakdown lanes, all fur and claws, joints angled at injustice, drawing eyes to a fixed point, a single stain, a single black dot. This is not my heritage. The night howls thickly. Sidewalks are so hot, there is no handshake. You, caught between bicep and forearm, a chokehold is the first dance in this marriage between nation and body, a union predicated on skin, not made for breaking. In the morning, all of your shards are intact, like the moments before your lover leaves. You shower, dress, make coffee, expect the privilege of sameness, but the latest video of a black man dying on a sidewalk, but the latest rising numbers of the pandemic, but a president who doesn't care. You finish your coffee, you call your mother, who expresses her wish to be left alone with 45 in the Oval Office for just a few minutes. Your friends text you and ask if you are okay. You tell them everyone is dying for some reason or another. So that was one of my pandemic poems. I'm not sure exactly when my book is coming out. I just received the acceptance, so um, it should be a few months. But generally speaking, it's an exploration. It's an exploration into like my personal life as far as and as well as the external world. Um, yeah. So here's another poem, and it's called Nothing is More Technicolor Than Wanting to Live. We offer our limbs to gods of too much and too many, as in too many seconds and not enough breath. Blessed be the weary who are tired of waiting. When your thorax concedes from breastbone to rib, when the stomach of a man becomes infinity, you call for your mother. Your shoulders turns eyes into necks, into knees, into asphalt, into videos we can't forget, into none of us can breathe. You let the light in. Capillaries behind your eyelids become a galaxy of fireworks. Nothing is blacker than dying. Never again will you clear your throat, touch the stubble on your jaw, rub sleep out of your eyes. What history doesn't describe is bloodier than sin. A nation divided by syllables, embers spilling onto the street, like all the lives that do not matter. Another stemless rose pressed between pages of avenue and tread.
Wow. Bravo. Is that also going to be in the book?
That one is going to be in the book. The first one isn't in the book, but this one is.
So, Reverie, how long have you been writing? Is this a long time practice for you? And do you have any formal like training, MFA, or anything like that about having to do with writing?
Yeah, I've been writing since I was a child, so very young, probably maybe around age 10. Um, I just finished my master's in fine arts and poetry and nonfiction last summer. So I do have some formal training. Um, Thank you, Susan. And to answer your question, Richard, it's to the God of to the God of, oh gosh, I can't even think right now. Um, to the God of sore feet and bad backs.
I have those. I'm sorry to be looking at another screen. I'm trying to help one of our invited poets get into the meeting. So I apologize for that, Reverie. I felt like that went so quickly. Are you willing to read that first one again
Yeah,
as
I
a
can.
favor to me? It
Yes.
just went so quickly, and I would love that if you don't mind.
Okay. This one is called The Blackest Summer. Hashtags, everyone dying for some reason or another, until a virus becomes as benign as eating Brussels sprouts and ham for dinner. We cocooned into roadkill, slumbering in breakdown lanes, all fur and claws, joints angled at injustice, drawing eyes to a fixed point, a single stain, a single black dot. This is not my heritage. The night howls thickly. Sidewalks are so hot, there is no handshake. You, caught between bicep and forearm, a chokehold is the first dance in this marriage between nation and body, a union predicated on skin, not made for breaking. In the morning, all of your shards are intact, like the moments before your lover leaves. You shower, dress, make coffee, expect the privilege of sameness. But the latest video of a Black man dying on a sidewalk, but the latest rising numbers of the pandemic, but a president who doesn't care. You finish your coffee. You call your mother, who expresses her wish to be left alone with 45 in the Oval Office for just a few minutes. Your friends text you and ask if you are okay. You tell them everyone is dying for some reason or another.
Mm. Yeah.
The way some of those rich lines abut, it's I just could sense, and I love when this happens because it just means I want to sit and linger with a line before the next line encroaches or approaches. Yeah, that's the sign of work that's highly readable, because then I can go back and really absorb the metaphors and the imagery and the clashes, the way, things meet each other, the ideas meet each other. There's a lot going on in that work. Thank you.
Thank
um
you.
I'm going to ask if someone else can read. I'm going to have to give some attention to one of the poets who's a little bit lost. I think they took a wrong exit or something. Uh, so I know we have poets in the room. Is there anyone who has a new piece or wants to share something out of their journal or a book? Go for it, and I'm gonna help Atenea, if you don't mind, please. Lorraine or Brian?
I do not have anything, but I would love to hear some more of Richard's work. I've heard you before, Richard, and I really enjoyed what you brought to the table that time. Do you have anything lying around that you wouldn't mind sharing?
Hey, Brian, Richard is the feature, so he was. We're gonna have him a little bit later.
Okay. Didn't want to jump the gun there.
I just have to say that Alice's like sort of image is wild.
Mhm.
I don't know it's the background or what it is, but you're sort of like a ghost. And I don't mean to be offensive. It's just at all. It's kind of amazing to see. Mm.
Ooh.
All right. What I'll do is I'll issue a a challenge and a prompt. Could you each drop some lines in the chat that is in the form of a mock prayer to Tammy's immune system? Because I'm a little bit sick today. So a poem that, or a few lines that address my immune system, which needs a bolster. So we're co-creating a communal poem here. Just for the next few minutes, let's do that.
Oh, shoot. Oh.
Hooray and thank you. Thank you. I'm nourished by your words and your caring poetry. And I'm just eating this wonderful vegetable soup. If you live in Fort Worth and ever need soup, I'm happy to make one for you. And other poets have arrived. Welcome, Enrique. Welcome, Atenea.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yes. Are you driving?
Oh, good. No, I finally got some reception. Sorry.
Don't move a single thing and get some rabbit ears. Great to see you,
Yeah,
Enrique. Long
likewise.
time.
Long time no see.
So we'll ask you to read a poem in a little while, but again, I want to ask if anybody else who's in the space has something to share. Lorraine, Andy, if you have something from your journal or a book you'd like to share, this would be a good time to do that.
Oh, okay. Oh, you're
And if
asking.
not, we'll just go with Enrique. Enrique, are you in Redmond? You said something about the woodland driftwood. Where's driftwood?
No, well, I'm visiting Texas this week. It's
Oh
my
wow.
birthday week. Yeah, so hit the big 4-7. So I came down to visit and everybody, but no, I'm in Seattle, just outside of Seattle in Redmond, Washington.
Well, for folks who don't know Enrique Cabrera, you're a national traveling poet. I met you in Austin in the late 90s and early 2000s. And, we performed together. We share a lot of spaces, communal spaces together, mostly in Austin, a little in Fort Worth. And I am so eager to hear some of your work, whatever you want to share. And please feel free to explain, like the context of the piece the pieces you're going to share.
Okay. I will try to read this one off memory. So this is a poem about Thelonious Monk. Thelonious Monk, if you don't know who he is kind of the foremost jazz pianist slash influencer of most of the like modern music, I would say, in one way or another. And he was fascinated with the notes in between the actual notes of whatever the musical structure was. So he was always, one very eccentric, but always looking for kind of he was captivated by what was in between the structures of our everyday life and everyday music. So he was known to just kind of literally like hold notes and dance around holding one note and just be in like ecstasy of the one note of whatever he was seeing or experiencing at the time. And he basically, I mean, that's kind of the way I see art in general. We tend to look at the big picture, but I'm more interested in the little things that make up life, whether it's the broken pieces or the things that are kind of very easily overlooked by most major things, or life in general is where I tend to draw my inspiration from. So I wrote this poem about that. Because you are the note within the note that drove Thelonious mad, mending his severed sanity just long enough to pacify his soul. Drown him in the chaotic eloquence careening from his fingertips, a lonely alibi to his enslavement bound to you. A blind man confined to the in-between spaces where heartbeats resonate in odd rhythms. I get lost in the peaks and valleys, following the contours, the curves that punctuate the edge of your lips is unknown territory. Here, Thelonious is a ghost in rapture, a nest of fractured notes make rivers of his eyes when he tries to describe you. Dancing, whirling, twirling, humming you all to himself, quietly, as if to live forever.
Super cool. Have you ever read that to Thelonious Monk music?
Yeah, actually, so my friend painted this picture for me when I was out traveling one time, and it was totally unrelated, but it was like a picture of these notes coming out of a piano. And I think she might have been like either dog sitting or something. She stayed at my place, and I was up in North Carolina, near Durham, just kind of doing some readings. And it turns out, Thelonious Monk's family is from that part of the country, so that's kind of how I found out. And through our mutual friend Gino, who is like a music connoisseur, he turned me on to that. I was telling him about kind of this music that I just discovered, and he's like, "Oh yeah, that's Thelonious Monk here," and then he kind of steered me in the direction of more, and I just kind of was obsessed for a while with him.
Beautiful. That was very satisfying. So, do you want to keep reading?
I'd have to look for something on my phone. That's the only one that I had kind of memorized.
Okay. Well, you want to come back in a few minutes? What's your situation? I know you were trying to find a place where you could connect to internet.
I'm kind of just literally pulled over, by this barbecue place. Very Texas-y.
Yes.
Yeah, but I apologize. I totally was like, oh crap. I looked down at my phone. It was past 8 o'clock. So thank you for the gentle reminder. I have not seen Tammy in since 2006.
That's a good guess. That's a really good guess.
Yeah, it's right before I moved to Baltimore, I think.
Yeah, we're chasing each other on the map somehow because I lived in Baltimore in the 80s. So you did a stint there and now you're in Washington State. Do you have any future moves planned, or are you going to be in Washington a while?
Right now, yeah, kind of for the foreseeable future. Eventually Texas is home, so eventually I'll make my way back. I don't know when though. Everything's so crazy. I actually, for the first time ever, got lost in Austin. I didn't know my way around. Everything's changed so much.
Yeah, let me share that I went to San Antonio last weekend by Amtrak, and when the train went through Austin, right beyond the railroad tracks, and I was on the upper level, of course, on the Amtrak, looking down. It was very easy. I didn't have to try very hard. I saw all of the underground communities, all the people who sleep outside. It went on for a long time. I saw a lot of tarps, living rooms made of tarps. I saw furniture. I saw all kinds of belongings. There are too many people living outside in Austin, and it was really sad to see.
It's like that in, sadly, all over the country. It was like that in San Diego. It was like that. It's even worse in Seattle. And you would think Seattle with the weather, or Washington State and Portland or the Pacific Northwest, with the weather being what it is, that it would be harsh, but people are making it out. They're making a living, sadly, on the streets and tarps and corners under bridges. It's really sad. I mean, you think about it. You go to other countries, you don't see that. It's kind of just a really sad note on our society that we're okay with seeing that and just walking by it.
Mm.
It's intense in the Bay Area
Well,
still. Thousands and thousands. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Didn't mean to butt.
Thank you for being there to note all the little things and making big poems out of them, Enrique. I love that we as street journalists, aka poets, can document what we see and how we feel about what we see. That's really important. That's why we do this series, so that we can learn about each other's spaces and places, how we travel, meta travel or physically travel. Love you, Enrique, and let's have you back again soon when you get back to Washington State.
Definitely. Nice to see you, and thank you, everybody.
Oh,
Thank you,
yeah,
Enrique.
if you have a way to put your contact info in the chat, that would be awesome. If folks want to reach out to you, email or social media,
Okay.
Instagram link, that would be awesome. We like to stay in touch with each other, or if you have an item or book to promote, drop the link in the chat for that.
Okay.
Appreciate you.
I'll see you
Be
guys.
safe on the road.
I will.
Happy birthday. Oh my gosh. Feliz cumple.
Thank you.
Hasta pronto. Yeah, I agree with you, Sue. Some of these poems, they bear repeated listening, and I'm not shy to ask folks to repeat a line or a poem. And yeah. So Atenea, are you here? How's the video cam going for you today?
It is not, man. It's been so stressful trying to connect, and I'm at a family barbecue, so I can't stay for too long. I spent most of my time just trying to find the link, and now my camera doesn't work. But can you hear me?
Oh yeah, just fine.
Okay, great. So I don't even
What's
know
the occasion for the family barbecue? Is there a special occasion?
No. My mom wanted to barbecue, and I hadn't hung out with her for a while, so I came. Let me see. I guess I'll read this one. I haven't read this one ever. So I've recently been working on myself a lot, right? Like codependency stuff, and trying to, give people back their problems to themselves, not absorb everybody's problems, kind of, center myself, a return to self sort of thing. And so I wrote this one. I haven't titled it, but I'll just start reading. I also used to spend my time rescuing birds with broken wings and clipped feathers. I'd pluck my colorful plumage and lay my wings before them. With a beak full of love and a heart that wanted to see them mend, I would watch as they took each of my quills, unaware of what to do with them. They'd stomp on them and leave them covered in mud. I'd sit and watch, grounded, wondering why they would throw away such a precious gift, until I realized I was clipping my own wings for broken birds that didn't appreciate the power of flight. How could they? They'd been grounded all their lives. They would pluck at their own feathers and then curse at the sky. I was just like them, until I realized how the colors of the sunset reflected on my back, and how splendid it looked when I colored the heavens, and with my wings spread wide, I took to the sky and never looked back. Thank you.
Wow.
Oh, Atenea, how new is that one?
That one, I wrote it last week, actually. Like I said, I've been on like a return to self journey, really deeply immersing myself. Like I've been reading a whole bunch of books, and they talk about how like the brain, when you undergo trauma when you're younger, like it doesn't really develop that well. So, the best way to heal trauma is to get to know yourself and stop trying to save others. And so that's what I've been working on, and that's what most of my poetry has been focused on. I wrote one today about that, but I mean, I don't know if I can read it now or if I have to wait for a second turn.
No, you can read it now. You're on a theme, and I love the inner growth perspective, and also that you're emphasizing that that's an important thing for grown up people to do.
Well, yeah, that's what actually one of the books that I've been reading says, that, you have to parent yourself in order to be able to grow into an adult. Otherwise, you stay stuck as a child forever, right? And so that's why you have 50-year-olds running around acting like 10-year-olds. And so I'm like, I don't want to be one of those. So this one, it's called mycorrhizae. So mycorrhizae is a fungi that actually helped. I'm a biologist, so that's what I do. And it actually, yeah, so this mycorrhizal fungi is actually this fungus that grows underneath the ground. Nobody knows how it reproduces, but we do know that it helped plants establish themselves on planet Earth, right? Plants used to grow in the oceans, and these fungi, they do, like, it's called the wood wide web. So they connect all these trees together. And when a tree is floundering, the fungi reaches out, connects, and sends nutrients to each other to help these forests grow. So this one's called mycorrhizae. Neurons growing towards one another, slowly, quietly burrowing through the dampened soil of my soul, like hyphae creeping towards each other, connecting the sprawling roots of my brain, nourishing, flourishing, allowing branches to finally have what they need to reach towards the sky. The deluge of self-love has finally arrived, and the much welcomed rains finally allow the little threads to thrive. The stitching hurts like mending always does, but January blues are making room for spring yellows and flowers painted with pink hues. As the connection surges, the fungal threads are birthed and die. The garden blossoms and the world begins anew.
Wow.
So much hope and beauty.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for listening to. I'm sorry about having to read and dash. I always love listening to everybody, but my nieces and nephews are knocking on my door for me to go play with them. So,
You want? Oh, you're gonna be a 10-year-old, huh?
yeah.
Just kidding.
Let my
No,
inner
no.
child
It's good.
play.
It's the inner child needs to play. Also, before you leave, please, could you type the title of that second poem so we can have, I'd like to be able to put my mouth
Yeah.
around that title
Yeah,
because it's a foreign term.
Wait, there you go. It's really cool. There's this really cool video on YouTube. I'll share it on here as soon as I can. I'm going, baby. I'll be right back. All right,
Have
I
a great
to go.
barbecue with your
Thank you all
family.
for
Thank you for
listening.
stopping in.
Bye.
Hi, Atenea.
Bye, guys.
Good night.
Good night.
Does anybody else here have barbecue in their background? That's two folks that referred to barbecue. Sue, can I ask you really quickly, if you have a piece, Sue, to share, I would love it, or share your impressions of being in San Miguel. I don't know if you've returned from Mexico or if you're still there, but I've been curious.
Oh, yeah, I'm still here, and I keep extending my time here. It's just it's hard to leave now. Kind of falling in love a little bit slowly. It's kind of it's easy and magical. So I'm not like in a big rush to get back to hurricane season in New Orleans, to the rain that's in the flooding and all that. I'm really happy to be away from that for a change.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, it's great to
Yeah.
not be there for that season, because you're pretty landlocked where you are now in San Miguel de Allende.
It's kind of interesting here with all the climate change havoc happening all over in Europe and the States. Right here in central Mexico at this particular time, I'm not feeling the change. Now, I haven't been here that long, and maybe the change is happening and it's gradual, but I don't feel it. It's cool here. It rains every day because it's the rainy season, but it's so doable and delicious. Yeah. So nothing, and they don't have earthquakes here either. So I'm kind of like, reveling in safety.
Wow, that's deep.
Yeah, I just realized I'm just reveling in it. It's a great feeling because I'm from New Orleans, born and raised. So,
But you're in San Miguel de Allende?
yeah, and I'm surprised. You hear certain things about the place, and a lot of those things, like it's a place for a lot of rich people, and that is true. That is true. But there are so many kinds of people here. I love where I live. It's just regular working middle class Mexican folks, and they're so sweet. Everybody's so nice. It's like almost like an instant community everywhere you go.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of pictures. I had older couple friends who retired there. One of them passed, so I still have one friend living there.
Yeah. It's so comfortable. And, at first I'm like, fighting the comfort. I shouldn't be this comfortable. I should be like having to, I don't know, beg for my food or something, or, and I'm just allowing myself for a little bit of comfort for a little short amount of time.
I think I'm happy for you for that reveling in safety. That statement is really thought-provoking. It's really challenging me to think about what we've been through. I've also mentioned that last year, going through the pandemic was like, living with an abuser. And then once things changed, maybe after mid-January, we could say things really changed, that things were not just all rosy and cozy, because we finally got to start decompressing and undoing all the stress response and disaster management behaviors. And I likened it to the idea of like the abuser finally being removed from the home. Things aren't just automatically hunky-dory. You actually get to think about healing from all the time spent with the abuser in the home and what it's done to you, and heal from the trauma of COVID, the trauma of white supremacy, writ so uber large in 2016 to 2021. So I am so happy that you are in a serene place, in a serene moment to kind of loosen your belt, relax, and not have to beg for food. And you're there with your beloved pet dog, who also maybe has some de-stressing to do as well.
Thank you very much.
Do you have a poem? Do you have any writing to share from your time there, Sue?
I'm working on a long manuscript, and it's prose. Well, I do have something to read. It's a short essay. Is that okay? Or
I would welcome it. I would welcome it.
okay. All righty.
How do the other 7 of us feel? Yay, no.
Bring it.
Okay. Thank you. Everybody all right? It's really quick. It's about my time recently as an ESL teacher in high school, and it was after the Parkland, Florida shooting. Okay, and yeah, so I hope it's not too intense or anything. Excuse me, I need to plug in. Okay. I went outside the classroom and peered through the rectangular door window. My brain cracked into 2. I began to shake inside my body. My index finger and thumb became a pistol, and I moved them in a range across the room. I was a teacher, but I was imagining myself a shooter. I was trying to see which of my students were in full range of an assault weapon. As I scanned the room to the farthest angle, I couldn't look at my students' faces or I'd break down. Some noticed me on the other side of the door, but paid little attention. They were chatting and texting as usual, happy for the break. It had been a week since the murders in Parkland, Florida. I'd meant to talk to my students about it, but couldn't. My voice was stuck inside my throat, but it needed to come alive. The silence among teachers and administrators was contagious, but someone needed to carve out a logistical response. We had a fire plan, but nothing more. Who's in charge of mapping out an escape from a shooter? No one was taking the lead. I had nothing to lend but common sense and my own instincts. I seemed to be the only one preoccupied with an escape plan. Looking back, the vibe was similar to the surreal post-Katrina days when teachers, pounds lighter, and many of us living in trailers or with relatives crawled back to our jobs. Still in shock, we pretended to teach the few students who'd showed up. Whenever we spoke about losing our homes or the trials we encountered during evacuation, the words never hit on the rawness or the disbelief we still carried. It was like trying to emerge from a murky underworld but never quite making it. The same psychologically singed scenario was happening now. My students were mainly from Honduras. Men had come to their houses and farms demanding money. Men had kidnapped their uncles and raped their sisters. Some of my own students had been violated, if not inside their countries, then outside by the coyotes as they crossed several borders to reach the United States. These were nearly impossible thoughts, but standing at the window with my fingers poised in the shape of a pistol was even harder. Being an ambassador of sorts to this safer country was one of the few pleasures of my job. Despite deportation threats, my students were assimilating into their Latinx communities in suburbs west of New Orleans. Now I'd have to introduce a new lexicon of survival in a second language: squat, huddle, barricade. I'd have to direct them to squeeze behind my own desk and under the work table. A few minutes after being outside the room, calculating angles, I re-entered. Immediately, my eyes watered. I wrote, "We need to talk," on the board. I pulled up a chair and sat in front of them. I started out by saying that I was aware of their experiences with violence. It was mostly the boys who laughed. The girls seemed indifferent and wanted to return to their conversations. Everyone already knew about the recent shootings in some faraway state. My delivery wasn't holding up. It was ridiculous. I decided to just do a practice drill. But how do I gently recreate trauma? I turned off the lights and motioned for one side of the room to move to the other. The boys, now rambunctious, made fart sounds. "We'll all be dead if you make noise," I said. They wouldn't take it seriously. There would be no successful drill. They weren't ready. None of us were. Thank you. Thank you.
This was very poetic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. And that's heavy. Yeah. Yeah. Any other comments? Feel free to unmute yourselves, folks, and share with Sue any feedback.
Oh, wow.
I'm really glad you put that in that format, actually, as a kind of essay. It flowed really well, that kind of stream of consciousness presentation of your perceptions and your intentions having to tumble over each other as you realize circumstances are not the way that you expected, and so you got to drop 10 yards and punt, and it was well spelled.
Oh, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the students in vulnerability, that piece was really crucial for that piece being strong, in my view. Just the vulnerability of students who are immigrant students who've already undergone such strenuous experiences and losses, and and you being aware of all of that, even as you measure future steps to take to caretake them in the mass shooter scenario on a school campus in the United States. It just shows what teachers have to go through as they arrange, what they know about their students, their vulnerabilities, and their dependency on you.
And also, yeah, and the fact that they are, newcomers, refugees, immigrants, and many people really have a problem with that, which caused me to think, oh my God, we may be the first classroom, they hit. But yeah, luckily nothing like that happened, and that year or the following. So.
Wow, I want to write a safety poem now. Thank you, Sue. Glad you chose that. Yeah, there's something about. Can I this is kind of a little bit outing you, Sue. And it has to do with how you appear in Zoom when you show up for these readings. You're often lounging, you're laying back, your head is against a pillow. So I have perceived you as a person that's relaxing and resting and not see, I don't have that mentality. I'm always like sit up straight and show that you're ready to go into action. I rarely have shown myself in a reclining position. And I think that means I've internalized some BS about like you can't appear lazy, you can't appear as if you're not ready to help others, or as if you're checked out. You know, like I'm over here. Don't I can't be the one to clean the litter box now or serve. You know, pour your own wine. Like so I've every month that you arrive for these readings, if you happen to make it, I have that little internal conversation like, wow, she doesn't mind that she looks like lazy or that she's resting, and that's just, it's not about judging you. It's just about me it challenges my own internalized whatever it was, being raised Catholic, brown, Mexican American girl. Like we couldn't. Also, there's some sexualization of that. A young girl laying back against a pillow. How does that read? So thank you for challenging those concepts for me by laying back against your pillow. Thanks for bringing your pillow to the Zoom room.
I had no idea I would read anything tonight, and that's one of the reasons why I was so relaxed. But thank you for letting me. I became unrelaxed real quickly. No.
Oh, you're great. Hey, we go back. We're good. Thank you, Sue. You're awesome.
I just want to say that you've inspired me. On April 20th, 1999, I was working as a transportation consultant, and I flew up to Denver, Colorado, to meet the people from the Colorado State Transportation Department. And we got to the meeting, and the person from Colorado State wasn't there. And it was only slowly that we realized that morning at Columbine High School, there had been murders, and the Colorado State Department of Transportation person's son was one of the people who had died in that. It's like that has had a real impact on me, and I've never put anything in words about it. So I am going to. So thank you, Sue.
Oh man, thank you. And that's like the best thing that I think a poet or a writer could hear, is that you've inspired someone else to express themselves. Especially with this really hard topic. Thank you for sharing your story too.
Yeah, I mean, we riff off of each other when we, sit down and listen to each other's work. And it could be just that something that's read or said makes you have a little spark, like, oh, that's something I need to work on for myself, like Atenea's emphasis on jumping out of self or codependencies with others, and trying to rescue herself and not let her wings get stolen or broken, so she cannot fly. You know, it's like we get nudges listening to each other's poetry, but sometimes as well we feel inspired to write, and that I too consider that a high compliment, Sue, when somebody writes, especially if they're writing like in the moment. A high school kid once came up to me. I'd done a reading at the Booker T. Washington School of Performing Arts in Dallas. And she came up to me after my reading, and she had her spiral. She said, sorry, but listening to you made me write. So you want to read the poem I wrote while you were reading? And I said, you know, that's amazing. You heard enough of what you needed to hear from me. And then your own voice became louder in your head. And if people can do that while I'm reading, that to me shows that I've done my work, especially in a high school. And so she showed me her spiral notebook and what she'd written on the page. I love it. Just love that. Does anybody feel like taking a break before we hear our featured poet? Need to refill your glass or do a bio break? We can do that for 5 minutes. Come back at 10 after 9, well, Central Time. Come back in about 5 minutes, 6 minutes. Is that cool? And then we'll hear from Richard. And then I want to invite those who are poets, known poets in the space, to bring out a piece to share so that we can round out the hour. Thank you.
See you in 5.
And I'll put on some music.
I got a lucky hand, got to some too late. The sun is calling my friend away. I got a heavy metal hand, to side down, too late. The sun is calling my friends away.
Actually do have this. Nope. It just started recording again, I guess. While you were gone, it turned off. I'm not sure why. So anyway, I have a day bed in my office. It's really a little room in my apartment, and you know, sometimes when I'm at a reading and I'm just listening, that's where I am. So yeah, I'm glad we had a break, because the poems in this book, Be About It, and those are kits, kit birds, are very different than the stuff we've been sharing today. But also I was thinking that, so this is actually my 3rd Zoom today, which is a record for me. I was at a reading from 1 to 3, and then from 4 to 5:30, this is my time, I was in a Zoom meeting to get about publishing another book with a couple of small press people, and then I had about half an hour, and then we started here. So if I fall over during this, that's sort of why. But also, here's what I thought. The theme is Dando La Noticia, and the poems in this book are much closer to, they're not so much on that theme. My books have all the different kinds of themes and voices. These are more personal poems than I usually have published. So I think I'd like to read a few poems from this, and then read 2 poems from the book that will come out in maybe September, which are a lot more along that theme, and actually a lot more like some of the pieces that we've heard today, if that's okay. But so these are personal, and I think I'll read a couple. I don't know if I've read 1 or 2 of these here before, but I'd like to read a couple from the beginning that are relationship poems, which I almost never publish. So and then and one or two others, and then a couple from the other one. These are all, they're not all light, but I think of them as lighter than some. So here's
Richard, may I ask, did you intend for your camera to be off? Just wondering.
Is my camera off?
It's on for me. I can see you
I
fine.
can see him.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I think I had gallery view or something. My bad. Sorry. Continue as you were.
That's okay. So anyway, let me read just a few of these relationship poems, and then the other book is, I'll get to that in a minute. Okay, Our Face. When I was in love with you, I felt at times like I had your face. Not just the thought of it, but your actual physical face. I would walk down the street with your cheeks, your mouth, your bone structure, your brow. It was a shocking sensation that shattered my pillar of self. It came and went for weeks, and then occasionally surfaced as our love grew on and faded. And decades later, occasionally still does. That's a true story, too. This one's a less happy relationship poem. My heart breaks, and then there's no fucking room. There's no fucking room for injustice or pride. There's a riveting single gong of a bell, and then life, endless, stretching forward through streets and reeds, and there's no goddamn place for wrong, for discourtesy, for disrespect, for mistreatment, for dispassion, for harm of any sort, for my heart breaks. I mean, shatters. Something permanently broke. And who cares, really? There's so much worse to worry about. But the soil and rock that we stand on, that we live on, that feeds us, also feeds on our hearts. And if it consumes damaged meat, then someone else might receive a poor meal, a little less nourishment, and turn a blind eye. Well, that's obviously an anti-love poem. Don't ask me about my relationships. This one is, in the book, it sort of functions as a recovery from that thing. It was actually written as a poem in the midst of grieving. So you could take it however, as either one. It's called Advice for Going Through Hell. 1, keep your hat on. 2, don't put your hand in dark holes. 3, bring lots of carbs. 4, don't forget to drink water. 5, careful of steps, they tend to shift. 6, careful of faces, they tend to shift. 7, watch that lava. 8, refuse unfamiliar beverages. 9, dig a hole in the sand and sit in it. 10, walk like you mean it. 11, if you have to hit something, beat the shit out of the earth. 12, try not to leave too big a carbon footprint while doing that. 13, make 13 your lucky number. 14, your chakras will open again at some point. 15, make every number your lucky number. Advice for going through hell. I'll do one more relationship poem, then a different kind of poem, and then a couple more serious. The Risk Taken. I dive back into intimacy like a human meat grinder, flailing and shrieking with absolute glee, arms and legs spinning as if I could swim the mighty blades. In a second, I'm churned to mush, and I love it. Driven to liquefy myself again and again for the sake of evolution, for the sake of touch. Blending, we thrive and spread and die, perhaps not in body, but in the limits of skin. In I sail, flailing and gleeing, and out comes something else, a muck of pain, perhaps, of unbound nerves, but also of sense, of cognizance beyond myself, of rapture, and of power, a power that could not exist without this, a speck of knowledge, a glimmer of ken, a way to become more human.
Wow.
We have to recover from them somehow.
Hey, is that a glimmer of Ken, K-E-N, or C-A-N?
C-K-E-N, knowledge, yeah. I use that word sometimes, and it's not that commonly used, and so bad on me, but I like the word.
No, thank you for doing it.
Yeah. This one is probably one of the lighter poems. Sometimes, you know, it's okay to write light. we need it. The purpose of life. It's a pretty small topic, really. The purpose of life. I move hundreds of objects around every day, literally hundreds. Socks, dishes, pens, books, bags, empty bags, bags full of groceries, bags full of bags, containers of food, chunks of flesh, parts of plants, various soaps, pieces of metal, pieces of plastic, pieces of wood, so many. Sometimes I think that the purpose of my life, of all human life, is to move these objects around. Sometimes I feel like an ant. That might be more than simile. It's really not that too far-fetched if you think about it. After all, we're so fond of ascribing to bees the function of moving pollen, of rats to knowing the way out. But do you think that's how they see their lives? I think not. So why can't we, in the greater scheme of things, and we are in the greater scheme of things, are we not? Much as our hubris and whack sense of self might lead us to think otherwise, mightn't we, as I say, in the greater scheme, in the dance, in the cosmic funk, mightn't we really be fertilizing or preparing to fertilize something we can't see or comprehend? With odd chunks of plastic, metal, wood, trash, farts. Might we be purposed, divinely or not, to set some galactic, far from human bloom in motion? I know that's loony.
Richard, I want to interrupt for a moment. To cough. No, my mom, it almost has this compulsive need to go to church pantries, pick up free food, and then distribute it. She did it yesterday and she did it today. And she'll insist that I take a lot of it, which creates stress because then I have to figure out where to put it or how to cook it. The stuff she brought me yesterday included a batch of rotten bananas, so I had to deal with that. And today I had to take that stuff, the rotting vegetables, to the community garden mosh pit of rotted fruits, which is the compost bin. I couldn't think of compost bin, but I thought of mosh pit, which is a better image, right? So she, I mean, it's like that. I just feel like I'm moving stuff, distributing what she's distributing. I love her so much for doing that. She's she approaches people in the Walmart parking lots and asks them if they want vegetables, and they'll pull them out of her trunk. And so I love that she shares, but it does create work for folks that aren't ready to move things around.
Yeah, that's true. So I have 2 poems from the book that's not out yet. They take about 4 minutes. Should I launch into them, or should I do one other from this book first? It's up to you guys. I'm not quite sure. I haven't been watching my time. Yeah.
No, don't worry. Do you have a title for the forthcoming book, and who is
Yeah.
the publisher for that?
Yeah,
If you could share that info.
First of all, I'm going to put in the info for this book onto the chat. But the new book, and by the way, I usually have maybe I get a book or a chat book every 5 or 6 or 7 years. So to have 2 in 1 year is like flabbergasting. I don't even know what to do. But this one is it's a much more serious book. I mean, this book actually has a few serious and a couple angry poems in it, but a lot of them are lighter. The new one is I guess I'm describing it right now as sort of protest culture poems, human struggle, and sometimes I just call them pissed off lefty poems, which I think, maybe catches some of it. And that's called Unit of Agency. Unit of Agency, and it's coming out from a brand new press called Collapse Press, and I just know that they're findable online. But it'll be a darker collection, and heavier might be a better word. So maybe I should read those 2 that I've chosen from that. You'll see a really big difference in tone. I used to try to make books. I mean, I'm not that good at getting books published. I have a bunch of books, little books and chapbooks and a few paperback books published, but I think that's because I've been doing this for 40 some years. And eventually somebody says, oh, okay, and you get but I found like trying to take poems I've written, say, in the past 5 years and put them into, I don't know, 60 or 70 page books. They always look like I can never do it well. They always feel like they're jumbles of all different kinds of things. So I stopped doing that. I started putting together poems that felt like they wanted to dance together. And they're smaller books, and I kind of like that. So here's just 2 from Unit of Agency. This first one is probably, I don't know, it's probably the harshest or most. I thought of it because you sent me that video, Tammy, about Chauvin, about the cop stuff. Now I'm forgetting the full name of the video, but the poetry video, something Chauvin.
Yeah, Trash Chauvin or Chauvin.
Yeah.
I see it as a series because all cops who murder are trash. So trash
Right.
and then fill in the blank of the murdering cop. So it's like I've invented a series. So I co-created Trash Chauvin or Chauvin.
I think I chose this one because it does address, among other things, corrupt police culture. Not that I think there are good people everywhere in every profession, but boy, does that one stand out. When it's bad, it's horrific. Anyway, here's this poem. Remember, delivered well and orderly, we rip our skin off, rip our skin and shine like the bloody moon, the moon that pulls us out of the room that held us tight like skin. Rip the moon, you well-delivered orderly, you rousted from sleep by the shining police uttering words made of skin. The police uttering nonsense, uttering death, are sent by the carnival balloons, the unspent corporations muttering hocus corpus, the police muttering nonsense, muttering other. The other police are not so bad, are not sent or crooned, only crowd the balustrade when justice intervenes. The ballooned corporation edges tensely toward the body. The corpus hailed and reigned in an orderly delivery. The corpus, the corporation, the police deliver well the taut balloon, but cannot pinch the moon, cannot pull us uttering and bloody from the unorderly carnival, the unspent shine, because we are not held in by skin, because we are beyond skin, we are ripped, we are bloody and blooded and well, because we are sinew and nerve and eyes, and they cannot destroy eyes. They can oppress, but they cannot destroy, because eyes see and eyes speak and eyes listen and sinew resists, because they cannot live without our eyes, because they need our eyes to see, because without being seen, they are nothing. Because without us, they are nothing. Because we see that. Because we are eyes. Because we are blood. Because we are blood and mind. Because we. So, yeah.
I love the way.
Heavier.
Beautiful.
It's a heavier, it's definitely a heavier book. And I don't know. Sometimes I cry when I'm reading that one, you know. But I'll do one more, I guess, and it'll be from the unit of agency. This is very different from that one, but I think it really belongs with the idea of, I don't know who we are, what we are. And it's a little bit of a mantra in a way. We have to become human. We have to become human if we want to be pumas. We have to become human if we want to be Schubert. We have to become human if we want to be truthful. We have to become human if we want a big choo-choo. We have to become human if we want to eat rhubarb. We have to become human if we want to ruminate. We have to become human if we want to hear roosters. We have to become human if we want a blue frou-frou. We have to become human if we want to speak Zulu. We have to become human if we want to wear bloomers. We have to become human if we want a pluperfect. We have to become human if we want to shooby-dooby-doo. We have to become human if we want to see Newton. We have to become human if we want to push broomsticks. We have to become human if we want to seek sutras. We have to become human if we want to meet Rumi. We have to become human if we want to free Mumia. We have to become human if we want to be ruthful. We have to become human if we want to drink root beer. We have to become human if we don't want a boo-boo. We have to become human if we don't want in lieu of. We have to become human if we want a new room. We have to become human. We have to become human. We have to become human. I woke up one morning and I thought, what if we thought ourselves as being human as like a goal we haven't gotten to yet? And that's our motivating force, or what if it were our motivating force, you know? And that's where that came from. And I don't know. So, that's all I got. And unless you want me to sing you a song, but otherwise, no.
I have a book of root beer for you. If you want some root beer, I'll send you some root beer.
Oh, I just like the roots are good. The roots are good.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
I love the variety of the pieces you chose, the places you took us.
Thanks.
Anyone else comment? Kudos.
I just want to point out that
For Richard.
You just did sing us a song.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
You know, with the repetition, it was like you transcended humanness, you know, like with the insistence on being human, at the same time there was a transcendent lift about it. By the way, I love the painting on your wall.
Oh yeah, thanks.
Did you do that?
No, that was done by a young painter who was a very close friend of mine. His name is Peter Caddick, and San Francisco. He died in 2001 of HIV. I was just thinking today, that's been on my wall a long time. It's watercolor, and it's starting to fade, and I'm kind of in a panic. I realize I think I need to put some extra spray fix on it, but also I think I need to. It's big, and I think I need to have it put in a frame with some glass or plexiglass or something to keep it from fading anymore. He was an amazing painter and dancer and poet and musician, and he shouldn't have died. And that's life.
Yeah.
Life on this planet. Yeah, I have about 20 of his things, and a few of them are hanging around. Actually, I don't know if I can move this far enough. Nope, I don't think so. Yeah.
Oh, that's another one up there.
Yeah, it's of him swimming naked through the cosmos, but I'm not sure how well you can see it. Yeah.
Wonderful.
He did a little swimming naked through the cosmos, I think, the two of us. This was
I love
always...
that it flutters, that piece behind you flutters. It has life as it moves with the breeze or the fan blowing.
I had a piece I was reading about wolves earlier at some Zoom earlier in the year, and apparently right when the wolves appeared, it like had this big flutter, and several people got really freaked out and thought that it was sentient.
That might have been in the Dando reading, because I think I remember when that happened. Maybe.
Could have been. Yeah.
I'll have to look at the old videos on YouTube, because it might be on there.
Anyway, we live. I love the series. I hope you can keep it going online to some extent. Not to put any pressure on you, Tammy, but it's essential. I know a few Zooms. Do you guys know other Zooms that are staying on, readings that are staying online? I mean, I know a few. Collapse Press does one every month, which has an open and a feature, and that they've been pretty awesome. I just don't know their address. If they have it, it's like online, whatever it is, you can find it.
Did you say that's monthly or weekly?
Collapse does one, and they're only been around a few months, but they do one of the last Friday of every month, and I think it's like at 7 Pacific, so that's gets later as you move east, obviously. I'm a night owl, so I don't mind.
I like to promote events coming up, and I don't have the link up right now, so I can't share it immediately. Oh, I know, it's BEMIS, BEMIS. They're a BEMIS. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, and they're based in Omaha or Lincoln. I think it's Omaha, Nebraska. And I follow them because they present a lot of really intriguing performance art and musical work that has an experimental edge to it, and virtually available. They have a piece coming up, I guess in a few weeks, and it's a tribute to the people who died at the Pulse nightclub, and it's a dance piece. And I think how many people were murdered there? 49 or 56. So they'll have dancers, and then they'll fall 49 times or so to represent each person who fell to the dance floor, or in the club. So I think I've already signed up for my ticket, my free virtual ticket. But if you want to look up their website, if you're interested in that event, I love seeing work like that, and it's a way to it helps me focus on a situation, a life story, a historical moment that I might not otherwise spend a lot of time on. So as an ally, I feel like I need to attend that event because it'll put my focus on that part of U.S. history, as tragic as it was, and honor those who fell. So performance art can do that. It can keep your mental focus in a place or a thematic realm. You're welcome.
I was thinking about that earlier when we were talking, because I was hosting a reading the night that happened, and then a couple nights later, and I had this I said this thing that upset a bunch of people. I didn't mean to, but I was like, because we were all praying for the people and their families, and I said, there's so much mental illness, among other things, that's unattended to, that's part of what causes this, and I feel like we should pray for people who, you know, are dealing with that as well, so maybe less of it will happen. And then people were like, are you like excusing the person who did this? I'm like, no, not at all. But you know, we always talk about inclusion, but one of the hardest groups to be inclusive of is people, you know, who have poor mental health, that, you know, have behaviors, some as extreme as that, but even ones that are not, you know, asocial behaviors. There's just been a lot of discussions about that lately, and I've been thinking about that in terms of those extremities. You know, like, obviously, I'm not saying, you know, invite people who are going to harm others into a group, but you know, how do you include them in humanity and help? I don't know. I'm not making any statements at all. It's just a thought starter. You
know. I'm going to share my screen to let you see another website about an event coming up August 10th, coming out twice, Finding the Right Time to Tell a Story. It's a virtual festival amplifying queer experiences of mental health through film and conversation, and that's also free. So I put a link to this on my Facebook timeline, so you can find this there, but I'll share the link right now in the chat. And then before I stop sharing, I'll also want to bring your attention to a free writing workshop with Emmy Perez, who is a wonderful poet, and she's now a creative writing professor who teaches in the Valley in South Texas. Her workshop, July 19th, in a couple of days, is free, and it's sponsored by the National Butterfly Center. So that's another event that you might be interested in attending. I love sharing these things because it would be selfish for me to keep these beautiful opportunities to myself. And plus, I might see you in the Zoom room there if y'all attend. So yeah, those are in the chat now.
That's great.
As part of the practice of hosting this series, I also like to share the chat, which I do mostly in the Facebook event page, but sometimes I'm in the Facebook group. There is a Facebook group called DANDO Poets, and there I give updates, and people can share resources there also.
I always save them too, which you can do. I have like a whole, because I use my laptop maybe, but you know, you can click on the three little dots and it says save chat, and I just did it.
Yay, you saved the chat.
I saved it.
For posterity. And you know, and it's nice when people give compliments and you don't have time to read them or really fully, you know, absorb them in the moment, and maybe you're having a low day and you need to be picked up, and you can go look at the compliments people confettied you with.
I save them for the
I
links.
have a random question. Oh yeah, links too. I have a question. Speaking of having a low day, I started watching last night the film Melancholia by Lars von Trier, and it really started to bum me out. Like, it's done so well that I started to have anxiety and sadness. Like, I can't watch the rest of this. This is really, and I think you know, I have to give my, you know, salute to the production team for somehow causing that in me because I'm like, I'm happy. I'm happy. I'm a happy person. Why am I feeling this way? I'm about to go to sleep and I'm depressed. I need, yeah. So do you recommend me watching the last hour of the film if you've seen it, or should I not?
I'm sorry. Lars von Trier is an amazing filmmaker. He's so good, but his subject matter is sometimes so intensely dark, that it's better to see how he does it when you're in a yang state of mind, but not when you're in a vulnerable state. Two times I showed he has a version of Medea, and I showed it to students, but I did it twice because we were reading Medea. We were talking about how do you what does a play look like? Here's a strange film adaptation, but it shows her hanging her children from a tree for like 7 minutes, and that's the kind of filmmaker he is. It's like, look how fucked up people can be. So don't hurt yourself.
Yeah, that's important. Yeah, I took a postmodernism class at UT Austin years and years ago. I audited it. It was good. I just audited it. But on the reading list was a book by John Barth, The End of the Road. And the professor said, this book, it can be very upsetting to people. So I just want to let you know it's optional. You don't have to read it, because I've been told that it makes some students feel suicidal. And I thought, oh, okay, now that makes me more curious. So, but I mean, I laughed then and I'm laughing now, but I mean, we are to take this content seriously when we're so vulnerable, or like Sue brought up earlier, we're not always in a safe space or a safe feeling space. Or as Atenea brought up, we may not, we maybe shouldn't hook up with people or concepts or cinematic material that's gonna drag us down. Interesting that art can do that, and we give heads up, we give trigger warnings. We haven't really needed to do that so much in this series. I think people are pretty sincere in what they choose to present, that I take. I feel safe. I've never felt threatened, but I do welcome people to mention if they feel unsafe or things are triggering. Yeah, I want to be sensitive to others and their levels of relative safety.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Thanks for being here and enjoying. I hope you've enjoyed and appreciated. We really span the spectrum of geographies. Lorraine coming to us from another continent, and we got both coasts of the East and West Coast represented here, South Coast as well. Thank you all for your attention and love. I don't have a feature set up for August, but in September I do. It'll be Joe Reyes Boitel, who will be celebrating their new book, and feel free to let me know if you want to read 2 poems on the theme. I love enjoying, I enjoy inviting people, but if you want to just say, hey, I haven't read in a while and I'd like to read, and I have a poem or 2 that relate to the theme of the month, be sure and hit me up. I just have one stipulation, that if you read a specific month, that you don't read the next month, so that helps have space for people that haven't read in a while. Lorraine, thank you so much for being here. And
I have a question. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I keep meaning to ask this and I always forget. So, if people are on here and like Reverie says, your book will come out in a few months, and I'll have one come out, and things like that, not necessarily like a little reading here and there, but if you have something like that happen, is it okay to post about it on the Dando Poets on Facebook page?
Oh, when the actual when the book is released? Oh yes, please do. Yeah. I may forget to ask you to do that or to do it myself for you, but if it's been mentioned, of course, Reverie, do you know when your book is coming out on Finishing Line?
Not
You
a
said
clue.
a few months.
Yeah, it'll be several months.
Several. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I want to have you back when the book is definitely out so we can celebrate its release with you,
Yes,
and you can
I'd
bring
love
your
to.
your fans and friends on to hear you read.
Yes,
I,
I will.
I would appreciate it if you guys took the initiative to let us know when they come out. We'd be grateful. I'm sure I'm not speaking for only myself.
I always hear like great people on here, and sometimes I'm able to grab their books at the time, and sometimes, you know, I can't, or I'm broke or whatever. But it's just nice to get a reminder, you know, not about like every reading that you do or something, but about when the books come out so we can see them. Yeah, books are great things. Mhm.
I agree. And I've just reposted the information on how to order Richard's new book, Be About It, available on Amazon. We have in the past had purchases happen in the moment. So do the thing now or do the thing later if you want to add the book to your collection. And thanks for sharing. Lorraine had a book out, I guess it was last year, Lorraine, when you read from a book that was a free downloadable PDF. That was pretty cool. Is that still available, Lorraine? And if so, do you mind putting the link for that again tonight, if you have access to it? I think you said it was like an origami book. It was like a fold up
Okay.
book. Fold up book.
Sorry about that. I had to figure out how to turn on my mic. Yeah, give me a second and I'll give you the information. It's the Origami is the Poems Project, and they've actually done 2 of my micro chapbooks they do. And as Tammy said, they're downloadable and printable, and they give you the instructions on the website on how to do it. Let's see, where am I? Okay, here we go.
Are they based in the U.S. or where? Do you know where
Yeah,
they're based?
based in the U.S.
Okay, okay. Beneath the Enchanted Moon. Yes, Galapagos Nights.
Yeah, and one came out in April called Escape to the Sea, which is poetry from that I wrote while in Zorritos, Peru.
Oh, beautiful. You have 2 then. 2 then.
Yeah, I have
Wonderful.
2 with them.
Oh, so we'll need to have you back to read from that one, Escape to the Sea. I'll email you and we can figure that out.
Okay.
Gracias,
Thank you tonight.
Oh, please say that again because I spoke over you. Sorry.
I said thank you for all of your voices tonight.
Great to hear yours, Lorraine.
Your name looks familiar, Sue.
We are Facebook friends.
Ah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
So for future readers, just know that we usually have invited poets read 2 pieces and one of them has to tie into the theme. But I'm very flexible about that. And there's the other Kaneki. Hello.
Hello, everybody. I got to hear so much. It was beautiful. Thank you.
We'll have you on, Paul. Your own moment.
You know I'm here for you.
And Andy, hopefully future wise, I hope you're, you know, it's really cool to get a feel for how this series flows, and maybe it's not for all poets or people, but if you feel like it's for you and you'd like to someday share a prose poetry piece like Sue did tonight on the fly, thank you so much for that. That brought a lot of energy and conversation to the space, Sue. Thanks. Yeah, just know that we're here the 3rd Saturday of every month. And join the Dando Poets Facebook group if you want. And thank you, Andy. Love it, love it, love it. And then also sometimes folks request to share their screen because theirs is a visual poem or they have a video that accompanies the reading. So I'm very accommodating, you know, with the Zoom structure as it is to help make that possible for you. So thanks, and I'll stop recording now. And those who want to hang around and have a final chit chat Saturday night, little talk after the reading, I'll stick around for that. And I'm feeling great. Your prayers helped, and the soup helped, and I have such a good immune system. I feel so lucky for an older person. So